We're going to switch back to and have part two of the heist of the Postal Service. So tell me, Jim Kaufman is here. He's the legislative director of the union here in Albany. So tell me, last time you were on, we talked about the issue of new legislation that was in favor of the post office. So tell me.
Well, actually, it wasn't new. We tried to get this legislation passed for years.
But it got passed. That's
it
the new
did,
part.
But it took 12 years to do it. Actually, 16 years.
Yeah,
in
longer than having a
2006.
baby, isn't it?
It is. But through the last 6 years of the Obama administration, Congress was not in favor of moving on it. Through all 4 years of the Trump-McConnell administration, we couldn't get anything passed.
And not only that, but there was more detrimental things that occurred that he put Jim DeJoy and, is it Jim?
It's
Yeah.
Louis.
Why'd you say
Before that, he
Louis?
set up a commission to study the
sorry.
Postal Service and recommended
It is
privatization.
Louis.
It is Louis.
I don't know why I said
He
Jim.
recommended privatization through that commission. So he was not a friend of the Postal Service.
No, he's never been. And how, I know that there's a push to get, I don't want to say get rid of him, but have him replaced.
Louis?
Does that
Yeah.
sound better?
Well, the president,
But it has to do with.
it goes through the Board of Governors.
The board, and the president doesn't have control over what they do other than replacing them.
Right.
To
The president has appointing powers to the board, but it's got to be approved by the Senate.
Exactly.
So President Biden did appoint a couple of different people as other persons' terms expired. And then there's a couple more he just appointed, but they haven't been confirmed yet. I don't know when that's going to happen, but eventually we're going to get, hopefully, a decent board in there that's concerned about the Postal Service more they are than
Politics.
withholding mail from ballot.
I think that was the big push. I mean, when I found it tragic when I saw them removing mailboxes, physical mailboxes, and then polling, you could only do this, you could only mail it here, or you could only do, I mean, and it was like, what is happening?
Not only did they try to kill the Postal Service's efforts to deliver the ballots, but they also changed the laws in many states, making it more difficult for people to actually vote. In some states, if you assist somebody in line by giving them
give them a glass of water or a bottle of water.
You can be arrested. So this is kind of ridiculous, but it's all part of a plan to try to get this guy back in office.
Well, I in my early years of doing this show, I was invited to go to the one on New Kerner Road there. Not New Kerner.
Yeah,
is
the
that,
General
that's,
Mail
yeah,
facility.
New Kerner kind of
Yeah.
goes like that. And I met the post mistress. It was a woman there that was in charge of it. I don't know if she's still there. And I was able to see the sorting machines and all that. And I was like a kid, feeling in the Willy Wonka place, It was like, oh my God, I can't believe the way they sort this mail, and it's zoom, 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 and it's being sorted like a million pieces every whatever. Then I see where they're removing sorting machines that were just installed.
Yeah.
What was that about?
That
Why
was to
would
slow the mail.
anybody do that?
That was to slow the distribution
Well,
of the mail.
why would you make things more inefficient?
Well, you would think you want to improve things as a postmaster general, but seeing how Trump obviously bent some pinkies to get this guy in there.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And this guy
Maybe
was going to do...
removed a few.
Yeah, he was going to do Trump's bidding, and part of Trump's bidding was don't let people vote by mail. At least don't let it be a success. Well, the postal employees came to the forefront, and they really did a great job. And I have to say that they are responsible for the turnout in that election. And then Trump didn't like the outcome, so of course it's going to be rigged.
Yeah, it's
There's,
a big lie, right?
There's fraud, and even his own justices that he appointed said there's no
There's
fraud.
no fraud, right? I know.
So,
Well, it's like if you say a lie long often
yeah,
enough,
that's what they do. They keep on saying the
Loud
same
enough and
drumbeat.
often enough.
The same drumbeat. People
It'll
start to
stick
think
somewhere.
that way. But this bill that just passed, this act, postal reform, relieves the Postal Service from that debt that they were under, and also lets them access the $34 billion that they already paid in.
And in our last show, we discussed how that money was, what they did was they made them pay for 75 years of,
There was a mandate to pre-fund retiree health benefits 75 years into the future.
so that's the money that we're talking about.
Right, but they couldn't do it. They could only pay until 2012 when they went belly up financially.
Well, I mean, how can you pay ahead that kind of money when you haven't received it? It
Well, they
doesn't-
were taking it out of their operating costs, but
Yeah,
they
well,
needed that
that's what I
operating
mean,
cost.
but you didn't receive it
Right.
for that or
Right,
anything.
they used to pay as you go.
Yeah,
And it's returning to that now where they can pay as you go, but it took such a large chunk of money every year, $5.5 billion a year, out of their operating costs, which hurt the public, hurt the Postal Service. It killed an idea that they were gonna go with green energy vehicles, which again hurt the public and hurt the planet. So this was all very carefully designed. It wasn't any accident that this happened. I just can't for the life of me understand why that legislation passed in 2006. I would have to assume no one read it.
that is probably true. And then the one thing that we talked about when we talk about a plot, and I would call it a plot, it was the things that they did to make the post office look bad, thinking that the public would say, oh, we got to get rid of the post office and go private, because, and that would be the worst thing that could
Right.
ever happen.
As we said before, the public loves their postal service. They have all the time, all their lives, they've depended on it, and they stood by us in other actions where there was contracting out, the public came to our defense. And they didn't give up with this one, because in one day, there were 12,000 phone calls made to the Senate switchboard regarding this legislation. So it wasn't just the unions, it was the
was the
general
public.
public
It was the
doing this like on a daily basis. Pass this legislation without amendments. We don't want any amendments to restrict the Postal Service. We got to get this thing done. So finally, it's done, and I don't imagine it's going to delay getting signed. I got a feeling it's going to be one of the first things President Biden does. But it's going to help get us back on our footing and let us do our jobs and let us serve the public the way we're
I
supposed
mean,
to.
when you have all this weight on you, it's like, it makes it almost difficult to move
Oh, it's
forward when
terrible.
you got that weight
It is
hanging on
very
you.
depressing to know that your business that you put so much of your life into, the work you put all this time into, I put 30 years in, is being attacked so much.
I know.
And for greed. It's not, not for anybody trying to improve things.
No,
It's
no,
just purely greed.
it's like throwing, mud and stuff in front of
Yeah.
a vehicle that's trying to get through,
When I got the job in 1984, as you said, you experienced that tour of the facility. It was 80% human bodies in there and 20%
I think
machinery.
it was let's see, I started doing this show, I'm trying to think okay, so it was in the 90s that
Well, when I left in 2014, it was 80% machinery and 20%
it was
people.
amazing. It was like, I couldn't believe when I walked in there and saw this mail being, and I'm going, here's the one thing I have to ask you, because this is one thing I absolutely adore about the post office, is my informed delivery. Oh my God, how on earth do they do that? Every morning I turn on my computer and there I see all my mail that's going to be delivered that day, photographs of every piece of mail. Did you hear me? Photographs of every piece of mail that I personally am going to receive. And if I don't receive it, I got a place to click.
Right. I don't know exactly how the technology works.
I don't
just
know,
know
but
that
it's
it
a
does.
miracle.
And the Postal Service has actually been in the forefront of creating technologies over the years.
And it's free, by the way.
Yeah.
It's free to get that informed delivery.
Now, when I compare the human bodies to machinery, it was a change that had to occur over time, because not only did the 2006 Postal Accountability Enhancement Act hurt us, 2 years later, we faced the same recession the rest of the country did, and we didn't get bailed out. No one gave us a dime. So we had to start cutting back.
Because you didn't own an airplane.
No, actually, that's another good point, because we tried to get our own fleet of planes, and the airline industry lobby shut us down. We used to provide postal banking. The banking industry shut us down. And then recently with the electric vehicles, the oil and fossil fuel industry shut us down. So it's
But see, the thing is, Jim, is that they blame the post office, not the people who impeded it.
Right. See that?
And so the finger is pointed, look, they're not doing it. How come they're not doing it?
Well, that's why shows like this are a blessing, because the word gets out there. I tried with small groups and like labor councils and other organizations,
But this is
neighborhood
gonna be up
associations.
on the YouTube, so it's gonna be there.
And there's something going on locally that people aren't aware of either. The city of Albany has lost 4 post offices, actually 3, one's in limbo, in the same group of neighborhoods over the years.
You closed the one on New Scotland Avenue, and
Well, they reopened it, but they
Did
didn't
they?
really tell people about it.
I used to
It's not
go
on
to
the
that one
Scotland
all the
Avenue.
time when I worked in Albany, and it's like, oh no, you're not closing it.
It's not on the Scotland Avenue. They moved it to Ontario Street.
Oh, it's on Ontario, okay.
Okay, but
I liked the
at the
location where it
Scotland
was,
Avenue, they put
right
a
across
sign
from
up,
St. Peter's.
and they were telling people to go to Quail Station over on Central, which, why not tell them to go to Ontario? They don't want that station on Ontario to succeed. They're not advertising it. The only people they told about the move were the people who had post office boxes at that unit. So if you
Okay.
can direct your
See, I didn't know
friends
that,
to
yeah.
buy their postage there and go there, 363 Ontario Street, I believe it is. It's at the corner of Park and Ontario. Use that station, because if they don't show revenue, they're gonna close
They're
it.
gonna close it.
So if you don't advertise it, naturally, they're not gonna show revenue. So
See, that's the way that you destroy things, is
Yeah.
you prevent that information from going out, and then when it doesn't succeed, you go, well, look, it didn't succeed. It's like, well, you didn't do anything to help it.
And that's a tough situation for people who used to be able to walk New Scotland Avenue, take buses to Scotland Avenue.
Yeah, it was right by the bus, it was near the pharmacy,
Near the
across from St.
hospital,
Peter's.
yeah.
It was like
It was very
a
convenient.
perfect location.
But, that's like, I'm just trying to show another example how even locally, we're getting squashed,
Yeah.
as well as a nationwide system. But the legislation that passed is really good news. The APW got a contract ratified, which is really good news, because had they gone to arbitration, you would have gone back to that caveat in the Postal Reorganization Act that says you can't do better than private sector people.
Yeah.
So it's better to negotiate a contract and have it ratified, at least you get a little bit of a raise, where before if it went to an arbitrator, they would have said no money, because these guys aren't making any money either in the private sector.
Okay, now, you mentioned something that I hadn't really thought of. I buy all my stamps at the post office. I just go over there and I give them my list. I want my extra ounce stamps, and I want
Yeah.
my, first class, and I want my international stamps, and I get my stamps and I go home. And my post office, my postcard stamps. So I have a file of all my little stamps that I use them. All right, did you say that if we buy them, and I don't, but if I buy them, say, and I don't know, I'll use Price Chopper just for a name. If Price Chopper sells stamps, does that impinge on the post office?
It doesn't hurt the post office in general. It hurts any station that's trying to sell the product in the neighborhood.
Oh, okay.
So it's always better, in my opinion, if you want to preserve the postal service in your neighborhood, is to shop there, do business there, show that revenue is coming in,
Okay.
give them a reason to
I
keep
always
it.
go there because I figure they know what they're doing, and they're gonna have what I want.
Oh, yeah,
and-
they provide other services
Yeah, they
that Price
provide it.
Chopper doesn't.
And I have to admit, it's like I've mailed packages, they give me my tracking, I mean, it's like, it's an amazing service, we can't lose it, we
Yeah.
can't lose the post office.
The
because-
window clerk's job has become very technical. They know so much about the products and services that are available.
And they're amazing.
Where, years ago, they knew their business, but the business wasn't as expanded as it is today. So they're very helpful, they're very knowledgeable.
I think that the post office is great, and I think that they've come along with the times, even though they've had a few roadblocks thrown in them,
I've
but
had quite a few.
they've done it. So, Jim, thank you for
Thank
being
you.
here
Thank
and
you.
telling us about and anytime you want to come back and keep us updated on it, you let us know.
Let me know when I can come back, and we'll talk about the great postal heist.